So we are going to discuss the next topic, that is the excess pressure in a soap bubble. So we will be discussing what is the excess pressure inside a soap bubble because of which the bubble is formed, and also excess pressure inside a water drop of rain because of which it is formed. And also we will be solving the numericals based on these, and we will find the pressure etc. inside a bubble when it rises from the depth of a lake to the surface of the lake. And also we will discuss the formation of new bubbles by combination of two or more bubbles, and in different conditions like isothermal conditions, adiabatic conditions, and so on. Now let us first discuss the excess pressure in a soap bubble. Now we know that how a soap bubble is formed. This is a soap bubble. So it has got air inside it and air outside, and the layer of soap. So it contains a thick layer of soap, means that it has got these two radius, outside and inside. But this is generally very small, thickness is very small. So this is the soap bubble which has been formed. So if I blow this surface of soap with the help of this blowing pipe, I apply the pressure here, it will be formed in this. Now the pressure initially here is atmospheric, here also it is atmospheric, and the pressure inside this must be greater than atmospheric so as to form the soap bubble. That excess pressure causes this to be blown in the form of a bubble. The outside pressure is atmospheric, suppose P0 is the atmospheric pressure, and inside pressure is P plus P0. P plus P0 is called the gauge pressure, absolute pressure, whereas P0, which is excess pressure inside this, is called the gauge pressure, because of which this bubble has been formed. So you can see that from outside the pressure P0 is acting everywhere, and from inside the pressure P plus P0 is acting, and the bubble is blown. Now the question is, how does it stop? Why does the radius not increase further? The answer to this question is, when we blow this this layer of soap, the work done by this excess pressure is stored in the form of energy in the surface, or this work is consumed in forming the new surface, which is called the surface energy. So this surface energy is stored in this bubble. As a result of this, when this comes into equilibrium, the new surface is formed and the radius stops for as far as the further increase is concerned. Now for the equilibrium, let us take a half section of this. This is the center. Let us cut it from here. Here, this is the center. The radius of this is r. Now let us consider the equilibrium of half of the bubble. This is the half portion of the bubble. Similarly, we have another half portion. This is the surface. Now it has got two layers of soap. The radius is r, and now what forces are acting on this surface? Suppose T is the surface tension of the soap, and R is the radius. Let us write this as capital R. This is the radius of the bubble. So on this surface, as you know that this surface tries to acquire minimum surface area, which is the property of surface tension, and minimum surface area is possible in case of a sphere. So on this surface, the surface tension force is acting along the circumference. We know that this surface tension force is acting on the length. So we measure this as per unit length. So here the force is acting T into the circumference. Now we have two layers here, the inner and outer, two surfaces. So 2 into T into 2 into 2 pi r. This surface tension force, 2 pi r is the circumference, and we have taken twice of it because here we have two layers. Air on this side, and a thick surface of soap. R is taken as mean radius because the thickness is very small. So this force is acting along the circumference in this direction. Similarly, if I take the other half, so these two will be joined like this, and if you try to separate them, the surface tension force will join these two surfaces like this. So T into 2 into 2 pi r everywhere. This is the surface tension force. Now this force is acting on this side, so there must be a force which has to balance this force so that this half remains in equilibrium. So this is the axis pressure force. So the axis pressure force is acting opposite to this. If P is the axis pressure, P into the projected area. What is this projected area? If I have this half of sphere, then the inside surface area of the sphere, naturally, this will be 2 pi r square. The curved surface area from inside or outside, this will be 2 pi r square. I am talking about the projected area, which means that if I look into a sphere like this is a sphere, half of the sphere, and if you look like this from the front side, this is the front side. A person is standing here, this is a sphere, half of this cut from the center. So this area, which will be the area of a circle. So this projected area we have to take. So P multiplied by this area, which is pi into r square. So this force is balancing the surface tension force. So for equilibrium, I can write that T into 2 into 2 pi r is equal to the excess pressure P into pi r square. So we get the excess pressure inside a soap bubble. This is equal to 4T divided by r. So this excess pressure is dependent upon the surface tension T, and it is dependent upon the radius. P is proportional to 1 by r. It means if I have a bubble of large radius, the excess pressure inside it will be small. Naturally, there is no further scope left for expansion. So the excess pressure is small and it is unable to expand the bubble further. If I have a small bubble, then R is small. That means the excess pressure will be large and there is further scope for expansion. It can expand the bubble. If we apply the force, the bubble can be expanded. So this is how we find the excess pressure inside a soap bubble. So you can note it down. Now let us discuss the excess pressure inside a water droplet. And you must be knowing that there are two types of water droplet: smaller, having smaller radius, and having larger radius. As far as this smaller radius is concerned, smaller droplets are concerned, their size is governed by the surface tension. Whereas the larger size droplets are concerned, their size is governed by the gravity forces. The gravity forces become dominant as compared to the surface tension. So their shape is distorted. They no more remain spherical. So we are considering here the smaller size water droplet, assuming this to be spherical. And also remember one thing, that inside this droplet, water droplet, and also the soap bubble which we discussed previously, we assume that the pressure inside remains constant. So you will be finding the questions from this part, good quality questions from this part of fluid mechanics, and also previously what we have discussed, mostly in the exams like TI, FR. So they ask very good questions based on this. Now also what we do here is, this is water droplet of radius say r, and again we assume the excess pressure here is P. So the inside pressure is P plus P0. P0 is atmospheric pressure and outside pressure is P0. Again we take 1/2 of this, let us cut it along the diameter and consider the forces acting on it. Now what is the difference between a water droplet and a soap bubble? The difference is it is having water inside, whereas the bubble was having air inside. So the bubble was having a double surface, whereas this is having only a single surface. This is the only difference. So we can show the forces which are acting along the circumference. Surface tension into 2 pi r. Here I have taken this as single circumference because it is having only one material, which is water inside. So we have taken circumference as 2 pi r and not double of this as we did in the case of soap bubble. So it is having water inside. Now this force is balanced by again the excess pressure force, which is equal to P into the projected area, pi r square. Excess pressure multiplied by the area on which this is acting, the projected area. Now for equilibrium, these two forces must be equal. So we can write from this P is 2T by R. If you compare this with a soap bubble, the excess pressure is half of the excess pressure inside a soap bubble. So again, P is proportional to 1 by R, and if you draw a graph between P and R, this will be a curve, rectangular hyperbola like this. If the pressure is excess pressure is small, that means the size has been increased, R is more. If excess pressure is large, that means there is scope for further expansion and R is smaller. It is a smaller raindrop. But as I told you, the behavior of raindrop is not similar as the behavior of the soap bubble with respect to expansion, because as the size increases here, the gravity forces become dominant. So if I have a raindrop of this size, then the size further increases because of excess pressure, then the shape is distorted and it no more remains a spherical raindrop. So this is the general behavior, and this is how we find the excess pressure inside a raindrop. So note it down, please. We are having two bubbles, soap bubbles. One is having radius r1, other is r2. One is smaller, other is larger. The question is, when these two combine, then there will be a double bubble formed. Obviously, it will be converted into a single bubble. So initially, it is called a double bubble. So when these two combine, a double bubble will be formed. So what will be the radius or the size of this double bubble? This we have to find. And here we will be using the principle of this excess pressure. So we are having these two, and when they combine, this larger one combines with the smaller one. So what will be the shape of the surface here? Common surface. It can be like this or it can be like this. Now on what factor does it depend? As you know that the excess pressure inside this, suppose this is P1. In the smaller bubble, P1 is 2T by R1. This is smaller bubble. And in the larger bubble, 2T by R2. We know that the excess pressure in the bubble is more, which is having smaller radius. So R1 is smaller than R2. So P1 is greater than P2. So it means that on this surface, pressure is greater on this side as compared to pressure on this side. This is P1, this is P2. So there will be net pressure P1 minus P2 which is acting on this side. It means that this surface will be having this shape. Excess pressure P1 minus P2 on this side. So what is the excess pressure? Inside this double bubble, P1 minus P2, 2T 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Now suppose when this double bubble is formed into a single larger bubble, it is having a radius R. So I can write for a combined bubble which is formed of these two, of radius R. Surface tension is same for all these bubbles. The excess pressure inside the combined bubble is 2T by R. Now this excess pressure must be equal to P1 minus P2. So we can write that P1 minus P2 is equal to P, or 2T by R equal to 2T 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So we can write the value of the radius of the single bubble formed. This is equal to R1 R2 upon R2 minus R is R1 R2 upon R2 minus R1. So this is how we can find the ratio, the radius of a bubble formed by combining two soap bubbles. So this is called a double bubble, which leads into the formation of a single bubble having this radius. Now you can see one thing here. If R1 is equal to R2, that means two bubbles having same radius combined with each other. Then what happens? The excess pressure inside both of them is same. That means this surface, on this surface, the pressure on both sides is same. So when they combine with each other, and if a single bubble is formed, what will happen? R1 equal to R2. In that case, R is tending towards infinity. It means that this will be forming a surface, flat surface of the soap in place of a double bubble. So note it down, please. So we have a question here. This is about the combining of two bubbles, soap bubbles, to form one soap bubble under isothermal condition. So we have these two soap bubbles of different radii R1 and R2, R1 is greater than R2, to form a single bubble of radii R. The surface tension of the soap is T. The atmospheric can be assumed to be atmospheric pressure is P0. So we have to find the value of the surface tension in terms of the other parameters, that is the radii of these three bubbles. Remember that this happens in isothermal conditions. That means the temperature during this process remains constant. There is no change in temperature. There can be isothermal condition, there can be adiabatic condition also. Here the condition is isothermal. Now suppose here this is having the N1 number of moles of air inside the bubble. This is having n2 number of moles of air inside this, and this is having n number of moles inside it. Now we know that the moles of air or the mass of air is conserved. So n1 plus n2 is equal to n. Moles of air before the combination in these two is equal to total moles of air in this bubble after the combination. And we know that from gas equation, air is ideal gas, so we can apply this. PV equal to nRT. T is the absolute temperature, and this is constant during this process. N is PV by R. R is called the gas constant. So putting the values in this equation, P1, V1. What is P1? Now P1 here is the total pressure inside this, not the excess pressure. This is the total pressure, absolute pressure, divided by R, which is same, P1 plus P2 V2 by RT2 is equal to PV divided by RT. T is the final temperature, and we know that T1 equal to T2 equal to T. This is isothermal condition. So denominators are cancelled. Now what is P1? P1 here is P0 plus 4T divided by R1. Similarly, we can write the values of P2 and T. So P1 is P0 plus 4T by R1 into V1, volume of the sphere, plus similarly P2 is this into its volume is equal to final pressure P0 plus 4T divided by R into its volume. Now this equation we have to solve and get the value of the surface tension in terms of these parameters. So we can write, solving this, T is equal to P0 R cube minus R1 cube minus R2 cube divided by 4 R square plus R1 square plus R2 square minus R square. This is the answer to this question. Now let us discuss a question. This is a lake of depth h meter. This is the free surface of water, and this is the bottom of the lake. So there is a bubble at the bottom of the lake. The bottom of the lake here it is formed, having radius equal to r. Now this bubble is rising in the upward direction because we know that the pressure here is more as compared to the pressure at the surface. Here is atmospheric pressure. Here we have the pressure due to atmosphere plus pressure due to h meter height of the water column. So when this rises, its radius obviously is increasing because the pressure is decreasing. So we have to find if the radius here becomes 3 times. When this rises to the surface, the radius becomes 3r. So from r, the radius becomes 3r as it increases, and the atmospheric pressure is equal to L meter of water column. Means that the pressure exerted by the atmosphere is equal to pressure exerted by L meter height of this water. This is the depth is H meter. So at the base, the pressure is equal to atmospheric pressure plus pressure due to this column. So it is total pressure at the bottom is equal to, suppose this is P1 and here it is P2 pressure. So P1 is H plus L. This much pressure, the pressure exerted here is equal to H plus L meter of water column. Suppose the density of water is rho. So this is H plus L rho into G. And the pressure at the surface is equal to L rho into G. This is the atmospheric pressure. Now assuming isothermal conditions. It is given in the question, I am not assuming it, that this is rising isothermally. Now in these questions, it will be given either isothermally or adiabatically. If nothing is given, then always assume isothermal conditions. So it is given here. If it is not given, we can assume isothermal conditions. Adiabatic conditions, if exist, they will be given in the question. So we can apply Boyle's law. Temperature remains constant. V1 is the initial volume and P1 is the pressure at the bottom. 4 by 3 pi r cube equal to P2 H rho G into V2. 4 by 3 pi, 3 times of the radius. So solve this and we will get the result. H plus L, everything will be cancelled out, equal to H into 27. So L is 26H. This is the answer.